Hello, it's Phil here. Welcome to the latest edition of On the Whistle. Now, apologies that I am moving and it's probably a bit wobbly, but I'm going to take you a bit behind the curtain here. Unfortunately, I can't do it at Huddersfield because we're in the Gasworks car park, which is a fair walk away. And basically I need to get there before they lock it. So I thought rather than not do a video at all, I thought I would take your questions on the move. So I've written them on my hand, so I can't remember your names, but thank you very much for sending them in. Unsurprisingly, a lot of emotion after a very frustrating performance. So let me take it is raining, so I'm a bit worried these might get washed off as well, but we'll soldier on. So the first question is about set pieces. Basically, why is Sunderland so bad at them? Well, I think it's a massive issue, isn't it? Another set piece tonight, such a sloppy one to concede. I think you almost accept with Sunderland, there's not a huge amount of height in the team. So you think if someone scores a thunderous header, you can kind of understand it. But that one is just such a poor one to concede. Going forward, I think the reason why they're so poor at set pieces is fairly obvious. I think it's one of the reasons why Alex Pritchard's such a massive loss from the team. I think without him, there isn't a natural set piece taker, certainly not from corners. And I think the inconsistency of delivery is essentially a reflection of the fact that there's no one there to replace him. And I think Sunderland are going to have a big think moving forward about how they take set plays. When Pritchard didn't play at the start of the year, they took short corners a lot. And I actually think that might be a better avenue because at the moment, the delivery just isn't there. Having said that, should have scored late on when Pembele basically took it off Ballard's header. So, yeah, I think a lot of people... Sorry, I'm walking up a hill here, which is quite challenging. But I'm coming downhill, so hopefully we'll get some second wind. But yeah, great question, totally agree. Got another one on the Job in the midfield three. Is it time to rotate a bit? Is the current blend working? I'm inclined to agree that I think physically, I don't think Sunderland are quite there. I think they're losing too many duels in too many games. That was definitely the case tonight. I thought Huddersfield were a lot snappier, a lot more physical, and they probably won that battle. I actually thought Job stood up to that fairly well at times. He made some good challenges. He cleared one off the line, which was a really good intervention. So I'm inclined to think that tonight, I'm not really sure he was the problem. I actually thought he performed fairly strongly. But I do think there's a question there about the blend. Is Chris Rigg the answer? Well, we know he's got that tenacity, but he's so young. You can't really be depending on him every game. But is it time for him to get a go? Possibly. The other one, obviously, coming into the equation is Callum Styles. Is he ready to come into the side and impact it? We know he trained yesterday, so he'll be there soon. Could he be the answer? Well, hopefully he can add something to it. What else have we got? Someone says, why are we so narrow? Yeah, another interesting question. I think that it's something we've spoken to Beale about. Beale felt Sunderland were too open, and especially away from home. So I think he's fairly unapologetic in saying that out of possession, a big part of what he's trying to do is tighten Sunderland up. And that means being a lot more narrow. He always says he doesn't want teams to play in the middle of us. In possession, I'm not really sure you can say that we're so narrow. I think in possession, there is quite a bit of width. Tonight, that wasn't really the case because obviously the idea, it seemed, was to sort of rotate Barr and Roosen so that Roosen, who we know likes to drive and field off the right, could have that space to operate in. But let's be honest, it didn't work, did it? It was a really, really disappointing performance. So we'll have to wait and see how that one develops moving forward, because I think it needs a rethink. Losing Roberts is a big miss because Sunderland with Roberts and Clark are a completely different proposition, and we actually saw that in the second half. So I think that's a big thing for Beale going forward. And the last question I've got written down here is, what's actually our style? I think that's the big question, isn't it? What is the style that Sunderland is trying to play at the moment? It seems to me that Beale wants to tighten them up, especially away from home. He wants to get almost another midfielder in there to make Sunderland less open. And he seems to want there to be more space for players like Clark to operate in. So it's almost as if we're trying to work to a bit more of a counter-attacking style to try and tighten up and also create more space for the wide players. But at the moment, I don't think you can say that Sunderland are creating enough, really. I have to say that, apart from Hume's late effort, they created so little tonight, and it's really, really concerning actually, because I think there have been some signs of defensive improvements. It's very rare that Patterson's having to make loads and loads of saves, but when you create so little, you're always at risk. And so I can understand why Beale was frustrated with set players, but I think we have to be honest as well. That was a really, 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 really poor performance, and it leaves Sunderland with a lot of work to do. So yeah, a bit concerned coming away from that one, to be honest. I think at the moment, Sunderland are having flashes in games where they look really strong, they look like they can be a playoff side, but we haven't really seen them produce anything close to a complete 90-minute performance for a long time, really. And that's a huge worry. Big couple of games coming up because the fixture list gets significantly more difficult towards the end of the season. So yeah, a lot of questions. I think after that one, a lot of work to be done. But thanks very much for sending your questions in. They were really good this week. Loads of interesting topics and really good talking points, I think. So yeah, see you again on Saturday, and fingers crossed we're talking about a much more better, dangerous performance and 3 points in the bag as well.